Okay, so welcome to our Committee of Adjustment for Tuesday, May 16th. Opening of our meeting, the land acknowledgement. The council and staff of the Township of Montague acknowledge that the sacred land on which the Township of Montague is now located and this meeting is being held is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. Our first point of business is appointment of chair. Our suggested motion is that Deputy Reeve Jeff Carroll be appointed as chair of the Committee of Adjustment. All in favor? That's carried. And so I'll pass the meeting over to Jeff.
Thank you, Reeve Jennings. So it's great to be chair of this committee too as well. So I guess the next thing is appointment of secretary treasurer. And what do we do with that? So suggested motion, I should read the next line. That Kirsten, junior plan to be appointed as secretary treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. I guess, are we all in favor of that?
As long as she's willing.
Yep.
Do we have,
No one else wants the job.
You're, okay, you have it all to sign and everything else, and that's,
Pardon me?
you have everything to sign, I guess, that's the, okay, perfect, okay, so that, okay. Bear with me, it's the first one I've ever done of these, so it's good. So the introduction, I guess the purpose of this, am I reading all this? The purpose of this public meeting is to hear the following application for a minor variance, A23-001 Miller. The committee is charged with making a decision on the application noted on this agenda. The decision will be based on both oral and written input received and understanding gained. The four key factors on which decisions are based include: is the application generally in keeping with the intent of the township's official plan? Is the application generally in keeping with the intent of the township zoning bylaw? Is the application desirable for the appropriate development or use of the site? Is the application minor in nature and scope? The junior planner will provide a brief overview of the details on file. The applicant will then be given an opportunity to explain the need of the variance. Then any person or public body in opposition and in favor to the application will be heard. If a person or public body does not make oral or written submissions to the public meeting or make a written submission to the Township of Montague before the decision is passed, the person or public body may be added to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so.
Just to clarify, may not be added. The public body may not be added.
Or the public body may not be added in the hearing. Did I say may?
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of the Adjustment with respect to the below listed application, you must submit a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment at planner@township@montague.on.ca, or you must sign the attendance list provided at the evening's meeting. This will also entitle you to be advised of possible OLT hearing. Even if you are the successful party, you should request a copy of the decision, since the Committee of Adjustment decision may be appealed to the OLT by an applicant or another member of the public. The Secretary Treasurer must provide notice of the committee's decision to all those who request a copy. Anyone may appeal the decision to the OLT by filing with the Secretary Treasurer within 20 days of the notice of decision. So at this time, I'd say, is there any disclosure of peculiar interest and or conflict of interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. So for the approval of the agenda, that the agenda be adopted as presented. All in favor? Perfect. The approval of minutes, I guess of the past minutes, of the Committee of Adjustment minutes dated May 12, 2022.
That's correct.
Be accepted as presented. All in favor? And now I guess I would hand this over to Kirsten for the application of the file number A23-01 Miller.
Good evening, committee, members of the public. So the applicant owns a 53-acre parcel of vacant land on Code Drive and is applying for a minor variance to build a single-family dwelling that would be located within the 500-meter influence area of an adjacent quarry operation. And the proposal is to build approximately 300 meters from the quarry if the full extraction limit were utilized. And it should be noted that the majority of this property is located within that 500-meter influence area. The PPS, the policy statement, provides sensitive land uses, which includes residential use, shall be located outside of influence areas of conflicting land uses, which would in this case be a quarry. And if not possible, that any negative impacts be mitigated or avoided if possible. Now, there is a strip of land along the northeast property line where the applicant could build, although this area is very highly developed, and constructing a dwelling in that location would resemble strip development, a form of development that our official plan discourages. So the rationale for residential separation distances between conflicting land uses is to reduce or eliminate negative impacts and nuisance complaints. In this case, the existing quarry needs to be able to operate to their capacity pursuant to their license without interference. And constructing a dwelling approximately 300 meters from this extraction area would not prevent them from being able to operate the quarry. But we also need to look at the impact that that quarry would have on a residential land use within that 500 meter buffer. Now, the applicant has obtained an aggregate impact assessment, and it states that no negative impacts have been experienced by the past and current landowners to date. But there is always potential that once a dwelling is built and if extraction activities are commenced or restarted, I'm not sure how long it's been since they've been active, that there could be negative impacts that could result from that. The quarry owner has submitted a letter to the township. They've expressed some concern with respect to reducing that separation distance, mainly noting that there could be potential negative impacts to the applicant, such as noise, vibration, and dust. So while these activities could be annoying, the applicant has advised that he is aware of these potential impacts and does wish to proceed with development in this location despite these possible occurrences. If a minor variance is approved, I would highly recommend that the owner enter into a development agreement with the township to acknowledge that there may be potential impacts resulting from the quarry operation. And this agreement would be registered on title as a notice for all current and future owners so that they're aware of the potential impact. So when evaluating an application for minor variance, the Planning Act has 4 tests, which were noted earlier. And the first one is, does the application keep with the intent of the official plan? So this property is located in a rural area as defined by the OP. Natural heritage features are to be protected and hazards are to be avoided. These are policies in the official plan. There are no natural heritage features anticipated to be impacted. There is a creek and there are some woodlands, but development is proposed to be outside of those areas. As far as hazards are concerned, there is a wildland fire hazard illustrated in the mapping from MNRF. And the applicant would be required to enter into a risk mitigation plan. Essentially, that would be establishing suitable vegetative distance between the proposed dwelling and the trees in order to establish fire-safe development. And this would also be included in the development agreement. The second test is whether the application keeps in with the intent of the zoning bylaw. Now, a residence is a permitted use in the rural zone. This property is zoned rural, and the proposed development complies with the performance standards in the rural zone. Setbacks and lot coverage are, of course, being met. The residential separation distance that's noted in the zoning bylaw is 500 meters from a quarry and a residential use. And as stated previously, the purpose of these separation distances is to protect existing and potential incompatible land uses, and a development agreement could address this. The third test is whether the application is desirable for the development of the property. This development is a single-family dwelling located in a rural zoning designation on a township maintained road in an area with several other existing residences, and natural features are not anticipated to be impacted. The fourth test is whether the application is minor. In determining whether a proposal is minor, we look at the potential impact on adjacent lands and the neighborhood. The quarry owner has expressed concern that their operations may result in negative nuisance impacts. And again, the development agreement recommended would address this. So if the committee believes that the 4 tests have been satisfied, staff would recommend the application be approved, subject to the conditions set out in the planning report. I can read those if you'd like. The variance is solely for relief from the required residential separation distance from a quarry of 500 meters to 300 meters to permit the construction of a single-family dwelling. The minor variance is approved based on the sketch submitted with the application. The applicant is required to enter into a development agreement with the Township of Montague to address the potential impacts of the adjacent quarry operation on the subject lands, including blast, vibrations, noise, and dust, well construction recommendations as outlined in the hydrogeological assessment prepared by McIntosh Perry Consulting Engineers Limited, dated April 12th, 2023. Best practice recommendations related to source water protection outlined by RVCA in their letter of May 5th, 2023, and a risk mitigation plan in accordance with the wildland fire assessment and mitigation standards identified by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. Said agreement is to be prepared by the township and registered on title by the owner at the owner's expense. The applicant is required to obtain all required building and septic permits from the Township of Montague. Excavated materials shall be disposed of well away from the water course, and regular pickup of construction debris is encouraged to prevent such materials from blowing into the water course.
Thank you. So that's the review, everything, all the recommendations. So I guess the next step is any applicant comments. I'm assuming the applicants are with us today. And if they have any comments or anything they'd like to say. Everything what you hear so far is lined up the way you sort of agreed with, and everything sounds perfect. All right. Do we have any oral or written submissions besides the one from the quarry?
The only comments that were received were from RVCA, where they had the best practices, which are also addressed in the hydrogeological report. So there's pretty much an overlapping there. And Enbridge indicated they didn't have any comments, which I wasn't expecting that they would. And then obviously the quarry owner has submitted a letter of concern.
A letter of concern for that side of it. Yeah. Okay. And so on that note, I guess there's any comments from the committee members at all? Yeah, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah, like we have very limited industry in the province or in the municipality, and I know you're going to put all these restrictions on them so that it doesn't hinder the operation of the pit. But you know, like when it was set out at 500 meters and now they want to reduce it to 300 meters, like, is that 500 standard across the province, or is that just change from one municipality to another?
That's a good question. Yeah, because where does that number come from? Is it an arbitrary number, or is it something that we have? Is it, Kristen, do you answer that?
I believe that's pretty consistent. I believe the municipality I worked at previously, it is similar, and those setbacks would be prescribed or established by the ministry when official plans are circulated. And those distances would be deemed, so obviously the smaller the aggregate operation, the less separation distance would be required, because it would be based on the potential impact. So for example, if you had a small pit versus a large quarry, the separation distance from a small pit might be 150 meters or 300 meters as opposed to 500.
How large is this quarry?
Well, they're not at their full extraction limit
No,
yet.
I mean, like, is it like 5 acres, 20 acres, 50 acres, or?
I would have to refer to my report to see. I apologize. So they do have an aggregate license, which would provide for the limits that can be extracted from. Currently, I believe it's over, the extraction is about 450-ish meters from where they're proposing to build, but the limits of the extraction site would be 300 meters if it was used to the full extraction limit. And I apologize for not having the size of the quarry. I would have to look at that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is that not okay right now, but okay right
Yeah,
now?
we're okay for the
Okay.
moment.
Is there other residents that are in that less than 500 meters right now that are around there? I just look at the quick map there and it looks like there is. I'm just kind of curious. Is there already residential units, dwellings that are there that are?
There are dwellings that are located along the frontage of that lot, but I believe they are further than 500 meters from the current extraction. I'm thinking that like
Does
600.
the extraction point not move as the business continues?
So when you have a quarry, you have a license, and that quarry license will dictate how the extraction limits that are permitted.
I'm aware of that. Okay.
So they couldn't go any further than what the license dictates without having to reapply or to get some sort of an amendment, I'm assuming, to the license, and that would then trigger the requirement for them to have to undertake studies.
Thank you.
Good question you had too as well. Any other questions at all from the? I guess, so, and you made reference to as well that we got to do a development agreement. I guess maybe just to make sure that we have a good understanding of that, that basically kind of states there's a recognition from the applicant that they're building closer than what the recommendeds are. And if there is any problems or issues or something does arise from that, they're aware of that, and the onus is basically on the landowner. And then subsequent, if that house was sold after too as well, but that agreement also kind of go along with each sale and each as the time goes on.
The owner would require that development agreement to be registered on title, and that agreement would stay with the property. So any future landowners would be subject to the same agreement that the current owner would enter into.
And the concern from the quarry owners is just more about it's kind of going in on that, but none of their concerns were that it's going to affect that they can't do their business. Like, now we can't go to this business. There was more just about it's just close to us, and that's just, we just want to make sure that's our concern.
There wasn't a concern that the proposed development would impact them. And I think the concern would stem more from, it's obvious that extraction activities can cause dust, vibration, and noise, and they want to eliminate complaints from the applicant or future owners that, may not be anticipated now, but could happen in future. And, it's dusty or it's noisy or the vibration cracked my foundation or what have you. And those are the types of things that I'm assuming they're wanting
That is their biggest concern, not about their operations.
Correct.
No, it's about covering the butt.
Correct, yeah, but not their operating, exactly.
Something was to happen. We don't know anything will happen, but it
100%.
could.
Yeah, it was, they don't want to make sure it falls back on them, but it doesn't affect, but
Everybody's aware, and it's not our problem.
Yeah,
And we're
it doesn't-
warned of this.
yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to have to run a water truck behind every dump truck that goes out of the quarry because of dust problem.
Because and the applicants are aware of that, and they've been, and they're open with that, and they're prepared.
You're
for
awesome.
that.
Yeah, that's why we went and pursued that aggregate impact assessment.
Yep.
And the hydrogeology assessment, and there was no impact within 300 meters. And they got peer reviewed from another company as well, so both conclusions are the same. No impact within 300 meters. And if that quarry goes to extraction limit, it's moving south, we're still gonna be east 300 meters no matter how far they go.
And so, so all of those studies are great, and that's perfect. Exactly right. I've been doing this now long enough where I realize sometimes those engineer plans end up not being correct.
Yeah,
So if that happens, you're prepared for that, and you're aware of that, and
what's
that's
going on the title.
and that's something exactly. Yeah. So it's just more like that feeling of it. Okay,
Take
you have that.
responsibility.
So that's exactly perfect. Okay.
And
That's,
just a point of clarification, my assistant, Allie, has advised that the quarry next door is approximately 85.5 hectares in size. It's a Class A quarry with 20,000 ton extraction per year limit.
That's kind of small. That's small too, as well as far as
Is
quarries
it? I
go.
don't know, too.
So,
It's better off not knowing.
85 hectares, that's 150,
Yeah, it's pretty much
150
double.
acres or 200 acres in that, 175 acres, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think 100 acres. We've got 22, then we've got 53 acres.
It's close. Well, 0.4 hectares is 1 acre.
1 acre,
so
yeah. So.
I'm not a math wizard.
Okay, I think, I think we've kind of dotted the i's and crossed the t's for the most part there, and the applicants are a good understanding of everything. So is the committee prepared to go forward? Do I read the full recommendation, I guess? Is that the,
You can read it again if you choose to.
was it the same one that I read, or no? No, it's,
If,
so the first one was the introduction, so so the decision is, the decision of the committee. I'll just read it. So the recommended decision that in the matter of the application under section 45(1) of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 CP13 as amended, the minor variance application A23-001 is approved to allow for a variance for the requirements of section 3.18. Residential separation distances from other land uses of the zoning bylaw 3478-2015. The lands municipally described as 946 Code Drive and legally described as part of lots 26, concession 5, Township of Montague, County of Lanark, roll number 09010003509210, to permit the constructions of a single family dwelling a distance of 300 meters from a quarry rather than the 500 meters required, subject to the following conditions. The variance is solely for the relief for the required residential separation distance from the quarry of 500 meters to 300 meters to permit the constructions of a single family dwelling. The minor variance is approved based on the sketch submitted within the application. The application was required to enter into a development agreement with the Township of Montague address the potential impacts of the adjacent quarry operation of the subject lands, including blast, vibrations, noise, and dust, well construction recommendations, as outlined in the hydrological assessment prepared by McIntosh and Perry Consulting Engineering Limited, dated April 12, 2023. Best practice recommendations related to source water protection outlined by RVCA in the letter of May 5th, 2023, and a risk mitigation plan in accordance with the wildland fire assessment and mitigation standards identified by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. Said agreement is to be prepared by the township and registered on title by the owner at the owner's expense. The applicant is required to obtain all required building and septic permits from the Township of Montague. Excavated material shall be disposed of well away from the water course. Regular pickup of construction debris is encouraged to prevent such materials from blowing into the water course. So are we all in favor of that? So that is perfect. So that is good to go. We have no other business, and I have a suggested motion that the Committee of Adjustment meeting adjourn at 5:26. All in favor? Yes.
I
Sorry.
suggest that you have Kristen read out how long they have to wait before anything's going to happen, while the people have to appeal time process.
Yes, that would be, thanks, Tom. Thanks, former chair that would know. So like I say, so the timeframes here that we're looking for, yeah.
So there is a 20-day appeal period once the committee makes their decision. And once that appeal period is passed, if no appeals are received, then the decision of the committee would be deemed binding.
So 20 days.
20 days.
Perfect. Did I miss anything else?
I remember.
We're good. Okay,
The
good.
time changes to
We're good.
5:29 for
Okay, so yes, so that the Committee of Adjustment meeting adjourn at 5:27 p.m. All in favor? Thanks, folks. Thank you. Welcome and enjoy the building, and look forward to having you as our neighbors in Montague.